and people misread it in a million different ways.
Oh yeah. I
Um,
totally understand. People like
yeah.
butcher the simplest of names.
But
So
and the funny thing was that a lot of people were calling it pandemonium because that's a more common word.
you're right.
And so then I decided, well, you know what? I'll take the piss on them, and I made a record called Pandemonium 2 years later, just for the fun of it.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
Speaking to Erymanthon from the band Apocalypse, and there was a couple more other acts that you are part of as well that our mutual friend Vladimir was telling me about.
yeah, quite too many of them actually. Um, the the most recent one would be probably Teratum. It's a band here in Sweden. I've moved to Sweden a bit over a year ago,
Okay.
and I joined those guys, and we play black and thrash metal, something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
the promo that you sent me for this is an upcoming release, right? For Apocalypse.
yes, it's coming out in a couple of weeks, I think.
Yeah, that I mean that checked all the boxes as far as everything extreme that I put out on the podcast, man. So
Yeah.
I was really interested in getting you on the on an episode. So thanks for joining me.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. Um, well, Apocalypse, well, if we take them in order, Apocalypse is my longest living project, so to speak. Because I picked up the guitar in 2015, and one month later I started Apocalypse. Um, Originally as a band. And at the time, I was really influenced by the likes of Nightwish, Yngwie Malmsteen, and stuff like that. So I was more into the epic side of things, and power metal, and with a bit of gothic and neoclassical and stuff like that. Um, Being a 14-year-old kid at the time, it was extremely hard for me to find people to play.
Right.
Um, and I did have no context in the scene whatsoever. I didn't have a clue. I was a shit kid, just fresh out of middle school and just not having a clue about anything. Um, so after a couple of years, that band eventually failed, and I joined a bunch of other local bands, and I restarted Apocalypse later on as a one-man project. And by then, I had steered more onto more extreme styles of metal. So mostly, I would say black metal and bands like Bathory, Mayhem, so on. And Apocalypse had a very strong Bathory influence for the whole time, when it started up again as a solo project. Um, Later on, I joined a black metal band called Feralia, and we released a record in 2022,
Mhm.
and we are about to release a new record next year as well. And with that band, we do, I would say, an atmospheric black metal, melodic black metal, something like that, where we try to blend Norwegian style influences with more, um, I would say, ancient Roman themes. Being a band from Italy, we tried to blend in that side of things, our own mythology and roots, so to speak, into that. Um, and then I think last year, a good friend of mine, that I had been helping out live sometimes with his thrash metal band, he started a new project which was more oriented to prog death, something like that. And it's his project really. But he asked me to do lead guitars and keyboards on the records, which well, I agreed to that because he's a very good friend of mine and I like the music. Um, so that would be the other project that I'm involved with, and I'm also involved with another band here in Sweden besides Teratum, but that one we haven't put out anything yet, so I can't really say much about it yet.
Yeah, understandable. So I think that was one thing that we didn't talk about as far as when we were trading emails back and forth that you're originally from Italy. Is that correct?
Yes,
Which part?
indeed. I come from Turin. It's a town in the northwest of the country. It's a region called Piedmont, um, and it's very, very peculiar because we have hills and mountains, which is very different from what people expect of Italy usually. Because um, I don't know how it is, maybe in the USA where you're from, but my idea is that a lot of people outside of Italy think of Italy as seaside, beach and sun and 40 degrees the whole year, which is, yeah, a big part of Italy is like that.
And every area,
Uh,
it's all picturesque, like Venice style, like just
yeah,
canals and
yeah,
people
exactly. I
taking.
mean, we do have that kind of stuff, of course. Um, but as far as the north of Italy is concerned, it's actually a lot more similar to Switzerland than anything else. Because we have pretty high mountains. The Alps, of course, they are on the border between Switzerland or France and Italy and stuff like that.
Right.
So I used to go skiing when I was a kid. I've always been hiking since I have memory, actually. And that stayed with me, and that kind of is reflected in my music as well, because this imagery of mountain landscapes and of epic landscape that sort of stayed with me when I got into music as well.
Yeah.
So I made a record called Pedimontium in 2021, I think. It was recorded between 2019 and 2020, but it came out in 2021. And that's basically a whole record about my specific part of Italy and the legends that have been told from generations, about the mountains and stuff like that.
So
So,
what kind, if I may ask, as far as the lyrical content and
mhm.
with that particular album you're talking about, what was some of those legends that you were writing about, if you care to discuss that?
There is a couple that I remember that come to mind. Well, two or three actually. One of them is directly related to the album cover. The album cover is a picture of a mountain, which is called Monviso or Mount Viso, which is the peculiar thing about it. It basically looks like a perfect pyramid when you look at it from the city, and it's basically visible from the whole region. Because it's massive and it's much bigger than all the surrounding mountains. Um, so that one back in the day was called the King of Stone. It's still nicknamed like that, and the legend goes that it was an old king from a local king that was turned into a mountain by the rage of gods because he did something to upset the gods. Um, and so he and his wife were turned into two mountains, and they face each other. They're like on opposite sides of the mountain range.
Wow.
Um, so that one is the legend, and about that one mountain, there were legends back in the day that you could not hike the mountain because if you tried, your life would be cursed for forever. Basically, you would never return, and disgrace would come to your family, whatever. It's the typical old times
Yeah.
legends, I would say. Yeah, that was one. There is in that song. There is a song called "The King of Stone" on the record, which is exactly about this legend. Then there is a song called "The Lake of Witches," um, and there is a lake it's in a different part of the region, but it's always in the mountainous area. And there is a lake which is nicknamed the Lake of Witches because the story goes that a lady was betrayed by her loved one, and she was going through the woods weeping and cursing her fate, so to speak, and she met some witches that offered her the ability to gain back her lost love. But before doing that, they invited her into a cave where there was a small, what is it called in English? I think a small wellspring.
Mhm.
Um, and they told her to look into a small pond that was formed by the wellspring. And they told her, choose between your loved one or the beauty of gods that you can see in this pond. And she eventually chose the gods. So they began dancing. The cave disappeared and the lake remained.
Oh, wow.
Uh, and then there is another one called Dark Mountain, another song on the record, which is about yet another mountain that is ever since the antiquity was considered to be a cursed mountain and having mystical creatures and to this day people believe that aliens have their base in the mountain. It's like it's sort of carried on. It was an important mountain in wartime at the around the Roman Empire time because the Roman Empire came until that part of Italy. Actually, my hometown was founded by Roman settlers back in the day.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, and I think some general, which I can't recall the name of right now, but he had a vision at the feet of that mountain that was like in this sign you will win, and the next day he won the battle that was supposed to determine the fate of his battalion, so to speak.
That's crazy, man. Like the amount of history in especially in Italy where you're from. I mean, it goes all the way back to, ancient Rome. Uh,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, I mean, it would be really hard not to like, write songs like of your band's nature.
yeah,
That has like a lot of like, like melodic and powerful and epic music. I mean, just with the tales that you're writing about alone. I mean, it, it's
yeah.
it, it's a no-brainer in my opinion.
I agree with that, but unfortunately, a lot of bands, things seem to be turning a bit on this regard. But for the longest time, Italian bands didn't really want to do that, and for some reason, they thought that since you had bands like Bathory or stuff like that were singing about Scandinavian myths, then you would have a whole bunch of bands from Italy singing about Scandinavian myths, and I think that's extremely like why would you even do that?
Yeah.
It's not only that it doesn't belong to your history, so it feels somewhat copycat in a way,
Oh,
but also you have stuff to sing about. We have so much stuff to sing about. The Romans, like I said, but even before that, we had the Celts. We had a whole bunch of we have a whole bunch of history that you can sing about. It's just that, but things seem to be turning. Like I said, I've seen more bands trying to pick up local folklore, and of course, I'm happy about that.
yeah, definitely. And I think it's very telling about every region that wants to embrace what they're known for and make it extreme in any ways whether it's just writing traditional folk music or something like what you're doing, extreme black metal, power metal, or everything in between that. So, my hat's off to you for
No,
doing
thank you very much.
for embracing your own what you're surrounded with. So
It's somehow it always came natural to me. Like I was like or let's say from when I started Apocalypse again in it was 2018 when I decided that I would make it my one-man project. Um, then I decided I was of course very influenced by Bathory at that time, and but I was like I'm gonna get the influence in the music, but I don't want to copy the Viking style because it feels it. I like the mythology of Scandinavia and stuff. How I even moved to Sweden, but it doesn't feel natural to me to write about that kind of stuff because it doesn't belong to me in that way.
yeah,
So then the first record was about ancient Rome, I believe, because I wanted to have my own, you know, my own influence into it, my own heritage, so to speak.
yeah, definitely. I mean, you could always take your the cues from Bathory and make that your own
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm totally, on board with that. Because I know for me as an American, if I was to start, writing music that was all, centered around Scandinavian culture, whereas I may have, in the gene pool of things, like a small percentage of, Nordic heritage,
Well,
but
you might if you have blue eyes or green eyes like me,
right.
then you might as well. But
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not gonna pull straws here. I'm as American as it gets. I'm Native American by my paternal side. So
Mhm.
for me to start talking about or writing about Vikings, I mean, I think it might it might fall on deaf ears. For some people.
Yeah,
It would just be like a real selfish thing for me to do. That's just my opinion.
yeah, it somewhat feels what is it, disingenuous to me and also
Yeah.
kind of forced. It's like it's somewhat like I think a lot of people jumped on that because of a trend. You had
Oh yeah.
Bathory was probably one of the first and Manowar to a certain extent, but then I think Bathory were the ones that really took it to the next level and really sang about it, not just because the Vikings looked cool, but because they meant it.
Right. Right.
And then, of course, when Norwegian black metal went on a couple of years later, you had all of the bands feeling their Norwegian culture very close,
Mhm.
from Bursum to Darkthrone to whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then
Immortal.
it's so yeah, and then it's sort of caught onto people, and people are like, oh, I want to do that too, you know.
Yeah. And it
So
started
and then
a
you had a
whole
mass,
trend.
yeah, and then you have a massive amount of people. I'm sure that a lot of them just write about it because they're passionate about it, but still, um, I would think that it's better to do something which is closer to who you are because then it feels more genuine as well.
Yeah. People
Um,
could sniff out, plasticity and fakeness a mile away these days. And,
yeah,
and people are more likely to embrace, authenticity and something that's coming, from, like the heart rather than something that's just formulaic
yeah.
and
I,
just,
I
like you said, disingenuous.
yeah, I believe a lot of it is due to the state of the modern world as a whole, but specifically music. You have a lot of music which is just made to just to hit the trend or to be in the charts and stuff, and it's basically designed to do that. So you're sitting down and writing, and that's even metal music. A lot of modern metal music even have the people using exactly the same sounds and the same equipment. Even they go to the same studios to have the same sound, and they
Yeah.
write the same style of songs because they want to hit the trend.
Yeah.
Um,
I love it. I'm sorry to cut you off. I know there's a lot of younger bands these days. I mean, I see a big uh amount of younger people, probably, anywhere from mid to late 20s to early 40s that are like, playing a lot of like, the new wave British heavy metal stuff
yeah,
and like, like some death thrash and all that.
yeah,
It's like, just going like way back to what, I grew up on in the 80s and early 90s, which is it's very refreshing to me that this,
yeah. Going back to the roots, I have a lot of friends that are doing that kind of stuff.
yeah,
And I had them even when I was living in Italy was, and of course, a lot of those guys are still my friends, and we are in contact regularly. And a lot of the guys are, playing in my town specifically. There were a lot of thrash metal bands, and very young people, like around my age, yeah, mid-20s and stuff like that. And they were all, going at it, and it was like it was very good to see people doing stuff out of passion and not just out of oh, I want to get a record deal and get played on the radio and stuff like that. I think that it's cool when it happens, but it shouldn't be the your main priority. You can smell that it sounds like plastic.
oh yeah, there's a lot of that here in the States, especially where I'm at in Louisiana. There's
Mm,
there's a lot of people who are just writing trends just for the sake of writing it. And
yeah.
and I'm just curious how long they plan to keep that up.
Yeah, that's the other point because I think it's very easy to burn out.
Oh yeah.
I remember one time I had a friend and he wanted to form a modern metal band or stuff like that. But from the get-go, he was like, I want to do this because I want this band to have success.
Right.
So he was sitting down and writing riffs in a style that he would think that the modern audience uh, would appreciate, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
we could get a record deal and stuff like that. Long story short, I think the band lasted 3 months.
Wow.
So and then there is and then you have someone like me who has been doing this one-man project for 10 years, and I'm nowhere, I'm not famous or anything like that, but I'm still going and still making music. Um,
Because you're passionate.
because yeah, because I don't sit down and try to constrain myself. Oh, this the record must sound like that and stuff like this. If you go through my um, discography, you might as well think I'm schizophrenic because of all the styles and different things that I've tried. But if you just do it because you love it, then the 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 few true ones will stick with you regardless.
Oh yeah, I'm totally with you, man. People don't know it, but there's like a ton of like started like riffs and like even some full like recordings that I've done all by myself. And like you said, it ranges. Like I mean, probably tapped into every metal genre
Yeah,
that I could put in my own hands. Just play it. Whether it's Black and Death, Doom, or even some old school like 80s heavy metal as well.
yeah.
So
I
yeah,
yeah
I'm
exactly.
schizophrenic as
I
well.
I've gone from writing. I sent you the new album's promo, so you know it. I've went from writing like acoustic folk ballads to like brutal death metal in drop C.
Yeah.
So and everything in between. So it's just if you do what you feel, then you will never burn out because it's a passion. You're not doing it to get the views or to get the likes. I think my earliest records were the ones where that sort of um, pure passion is the most evident because I think on a subconscious level, the fact that people are listening to your music is going to change the way that you view it,
Hmm.
whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And I've made 8 or 9 albums right now. I don't even remember. So after a while, I think something inside you might change, even though you don't perceive it. The important part is that you still need to, sometimes you need to sit down and remind yourself why you're doing this. It's very easy to get caught into the spiral of, oh, I must do this to please this or that. Then it doesn't, I get depressed when that happens and it just
Oh,
doesn't work.
I'm with you right there. Especially just with this podcast.
Yeah,
I started the podcast, a lot like a musician would, where, I just got a passion for, talking to people
yeah,
and putting out some really good, in my opinion, some really interesting and thought-provoking conversations with artists that I admire and I'm influenced by. And,
yeah.
and like once it got, a little popular, I was like questioning, why, like you said, like, why am I doing this? Am I doing this because I'm still passionate about it? Or, am I, wanting the the likes, the subscribers and all that?
Yeah, the YouTube button to
Yeah.
hang on your wall and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, but I don't want that. I give two shits. I mean, really though. I mean, what really keeps me going with it is just like I said, from the beginning, just wanted to write, not write, well, wanted to engage with some, artists like yourself, and it really put out a conversation that people could go back and say, you know what, this person has a really interesting story. Let's check out his music if they haven't discovered your music,
yeah, and I think you're doing great work. I've seen a few of your episodes. I've seen, of course, the one with Vladimir,
Yeah.
who got us in touch. The funny thing that the way that we got in touch is a few years ago he was writing for Metal Bite,
Yeah.
um, and he got in touch with me because he had been a fan of Apocalypse, and he was like, "Hey, I really want to do an interview with you. Could we do that?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." So we did that, and then we stayed in touch later on. Um, and then I've seen your episode with Simon Smith.
Yes. I love
Great
Simon.
guy.
Great guy.
Yeah, we chat sometimes on Instagram and stuff like that. He was one of the ones that when I started playing guitar, I was always watching his videos, and there is
Same
so
here.
much that I learned from it.
Same here.
So I think I think on a couple of my early albums, I even stole a couple of his riffs from his lessons.
It's real easy to, man. It's real. It's you catch. I know I catch myself playing some things that if I want to learn particular riffs by the bands that he showcased on his channel, it can't help but just let the little cue just play all his videos, and like, and I'm watching it. He's such a very he's a great teacher first and
Yeah,
foremost,
yeah.
and he just breaks every riff down slow by, like really slowly for, like, caveman guitarists like myself to play. So I was like, wow, man, I could play his shit,
Yeah,
if I want.
and the other cool thing about his channel is that I don't know about you, but I've always been somewhat of a tone nerd and gear nerd, and I like to dial in tones. So sometimes I just sit down for 3 hours just dialing my amp and to,
Oh
to
man,
find different sounds and stuff like that.
no, not,
Um,
not me. Like I'll spend a good 15-20 minutes here and there, maybe tone shaping
yeah.
on an amp or a preset or something like that.
Hmm.
I have like the Neuro DSP stuff, and
Oh yeah.
I mean they come like, game ready, so to
Yeah.
speak. And I can just use like a default plugin and just go do whatever I gotta do.
Just go and play. Just go
Yeah.
at it. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, I think it goes on periods with me. Sometimes I just like that, but a lot of times I'm also tone seeking somehow. So because I find it fun to um, to hear different tones and to see how things change when you tweak the knobs and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
it's
same here. I do that too. And like, my I can get a little OCD sometimes. So
oh
it's,
yeah,
it's just like, okay, that's all I'm doing for the day, just and I'll lose all kind of hours. But, and then I'll settle on a really good tone and I'm like, all right, well, next day I'm turning it, something caught my ear that I didn't hear before. So I was like, okay, I'll
yeah.
keep
The,
messing.
the the worst is when you have been dialing tones for like 2 hours and you're ear fatigued. So the
Oh
next day you
yeah.
listen back to it, you're like, oh my God, this sounds like shit.
Yes.
Yeah, that happens all the time. And but he has Simon has a lot of gear demos and stuff like that on his channel. So I was watching that stuff as well. And then I've seen your episode with Fredrik from Bathory.
Oh man, that
Um,
was monumental for me. I tell you.
yeah,
I mean,
I met him a couple times here in Stockholm and going to shows and stuff. He's extremely accessible even in real life.
crazy.
So every time we meet, we take a couple minutes to chat and say what's up and stuff like that.
I tell you what, I've seen him on stage twice now, with the Bloodfire Death tribute.
I've seen him too last year in Norway.
And no, take that back. Twice with that band, and he was on the stage with Shuder, uh,
Yep.
and at Inferno. And I tell you, you could tell that he has such a great passion for doing what he's doing, playing those early album songs
Yeah.
with the bands. And like you said, he's very accessible. I'll have a conversation with him, on social media, like just out of the blue, just unexpected. He'll reach out. I'm like, dude, like
Yeah.
you're in Bathory and you're talking to me, dude.
Yeah. No, he's a good guy from what I've gathered. Like uh, he wanted to listen to Apocalypse, so after I met him the first time at a show last year, so I sent him some of the stuff and he liked it. And every time we meet, we take some time to chat. I actually offered him to play the bass on the new Apocalypse record. He was very excited about it, but it had too much stuff going on and stuff. So yeah, he declined, and I was like, yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean,
but
understandable.
yeah, absolutely, of course. But it's cool. And here's the thing: when you're in Sweden, since the scene is so small, and I mean, Sweden has 11 million people or something like that. So basically, everyone knows each other.
Hmm.
So in my band Teratum, the two of the guys I've been growing up with the guys in Latin. So I've met Erik a bunch of times at shows, um, and the brother of my bass player was the original bass player in Ghost and stuff like that. So it's like everyone knows everybody, so to
Yeah.
speak, because
That's
we are so few people anyway.
that's wild, man, because I was talking to this over the weekend about different music scenes, and New Orleans, namely, has one of the most celebrated music metal scenes in the world.
Hmm.
As far as like sludge music's concerned, and like you have your people that come out of Louisiana, like I Hate God, Crowbar, and Acid,
Yeah.
Solid Green, and just to name a handful. And and everyone knows about these bands that's like keyed in on Louisiana metal, which is great.
Hmm.
And it's so, like you said, it's so everyone knows everyone. And you have a lot of members who like historically have been in each other's bands and whatnot, and just like uh it's really great to see. And I'm learning every time I go out to Norway and Oslo, and I mean, it's you got your Bergen, your Oslo, your Trondheim
Hmm.
scene. It's wild. Like everyone, the metal community by and large, I mean, is very niche. And and depending on where you go, you could run into someone that you never thought. I mean, shit.
Yeah.
First time going to Oslo, walked in a record store, saw Tom G Warrior. I was like,
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing because since it's very niche and it's not many people, then they are always going to be revolving around those same spots.
yeah,
Notably, Corthon wasn't like that. Um, and I've been working with one of the reasons I moved to Sweden is that for a few years now I've been working with a label and studio
Hmm.
which is called Mimo Sound Records, and Mimo Sound Studio, and that's the studio where Bathory recorded anything from Destroyer of Worlds and onwards. So Destroyer, Nordland, and I think a couple of more tracks. Um, and then they stopped working when Corthan died.
Yeah.
Um, and then through my music, I got in touch with the owner of the studio, who was a friend of Corthan. And then we became friends and started, working together. Um, so the new record that we're putting out was the first record I recorded in Sweden. It was recorded in that same place.
What was it like,
Um,
what was it like, knowing that you were stepping into a studio where arguably like one of your, favorite metal acts of all time recorded? Like, was it overwhelming for you? Was it daunting? How'd you feel about going into that place?
it's hard to put into words. I remember the first time I came to the studio. It was the first time I came to Sweden actually 3 years ago. Um, and I just came for a week of holiday, and I was like, I have a week free in August. I'll go to Stockholm. So I came with a friend of mine, and at the time I had been talking on and off with the guy from Mimo Sound, Mike. And I called him on the phone. I was like, I'm coming to Stockholm. We can go and have a beer or something. And it was like, oh no, no, I want you to come to the studio instead. And that was already a bit of a shock for me. So, and the studio is out of Stockholm, so it was, I think, half an hour out of the center of Stockholm in the woods somewhere. So we go in there, and when I stepped into the studio, it was somewhat of a heavy atmosphere because you sort of feel the legacy behind that place in a way.
Yeah.
And I would say it was kind of overwhelming, and it was kind of bittersweet as well. Because in a way you're in a place where history was made somehow, but you also have uh, the the painful part of it is that he's no longer with us,
Right.
and who knows what more music he could have made. Um, so and then Mike gave me an acoustic guitar and was like, "Oh, play this. This is what we use to record Nordland and stuff like that."
The actual the actual guitar?
Yeah,
Oh,
if on the new Apocalypse album, which is coming out on October the 28th, every acoustic guitar part is recorded with that same acoustic guitar because that's what he has in the studio. And it's like it's an instrument. We use it. So it's like um but as far as I know, it's only been put on Nordland and on my record. So that feels still unreal to me.
yeah, that would be if I was you, I'd still be blown away about that. Just
That's when you're a 16-year-old and sitting down starting your own project, you never imagine something like this could happen.
mm, no,
And this goes back to what we were talking about before. I didn't do this because I was wanting to, make $1 million selling records and touring the world. No, it was the passion. This is where passion can lead you.
yeah,
Without you even, with me, all of this because I was sitting down in my room, my shitty home studio, which was not much more than a computer and a tube guitar preamp and an audio interface, just recording music and putting that. And this is what it comes to sometimes.
yeah,
You need to be lucky. You need to be looking for opportunities as well.
yeah,
But that's where passion can lead you, and it's still unbelievable to this day. So sometimes you need to sit down. It's easy for people to get accustomed to things. Um, and sometimes you sit down and you have to remind yourself that you're kind of lucky with some of the things that happen.
absolutely, man. There were some just being a fucking podcaster like I am. I consider myself very lucky to just be surrounded by some good people who, whether it's through networking or, talking to the, some musician friends who have become friends at this point,
Yeah,
just like afforded me to talk to. people that I probably would have had no chance of of talking to them on camera, and let alone in person, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've seen I've taken a sneak peek at your channel, and you're talking, with sometimes absolute monsters of the metal scene, like Freedom from Bathory being one of them, and a bunch of others. So I think it's kind of the same thing for you. If you go back even 10 years, you would probably not think that it would happen.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, j just on I'll take it to you locally, man. On a local level, I was 15 through 17 years old listening to the likes of Louisiana's Acid Bath and Soylent Green and I Hate God, and
Hmm.
if you'd have told that kid that he would be hanging out with them on the weekends and just
Yeah.
and just shooting the shit, going on tour with them, whatever, I'm like, yeah, that's insane to me.
It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
right, yeah, right, yeah. But no, man. Going backwards, because I know the conversation steered, to where you're at now. But what was like, what was life living in Lafayette, Italy, as a kid, and like what brought you to this point where you want to make music your main thing?
Oh, so I come from a very musical family. That's to be said. So a lot of people in my family are passionate, at least passionate about music, um, or art in general. So since I was a kid, I was going to classical music concerts, and two of my mother's uncles, I think, were opera singers professionally.
Wow.
Um, and then later on, my grandparents are passionate about music. Virtually everyone in my close family plays some sort of instrument or has played some sort of instrument. Um, so music has been a part of my life from very early on, from that aspect. Growing up, I was listening to a lot of music, but I didn't really play so much music for some reason. So I was always a creative kid. I like to draw. I still do. The new Apocalypse album is the album cover is something that I painted. Um, so I was into creative stuff, but not necessarily into playing music, at least not yet.
Mhm.
Um, I was just growing up. I was just a quite a kind of introverted kid, I would say. Um, but I also had my own strong ideas about things, so things needed to be done my way.
Yeah.
So I could be kind of hard, but both to discipline and to get along with. That has caused me a couple of problems. Um, I think the first time that I picked up an instrument was at 6 years old. Do you remember the Tom and Jerry
Oh yeah.
animated
Oh
cartoons?
yeah.
Yeah. And and I had one of those DVDs and or a bunch of them. And in one of them there is Tom playing the piano. And I was like, well, okay, I'm gonna play the piano too. So I tried to pick it up, played the piano for 1 year from 6 to 7. It wasn't really my thing, so eventually I gave up. Um, I didn't pick up an instrument again until middle school, where by the syllabus we are supposed to play the recorder, which is probably the shittiest instrument on the planet. But I had to do that, and I was quite good at it, but I didn't really enjoy it. But since my family has always been so musical, I've still been listening to a lot of music throughout the whole time. And my father, he's been listening to all sorts of different styles of music from anything from, country to rock to metal to ambient to virtually anything in between.
Like American
Uh,
country music.
yeah, some of that, I
Wow.
think, or even and of course folk music, traditional Celtic music, and just about anything. I think there is nothing that he hasn't heard. Um, um, so and that includes metal music. And I think my first exposure to metal music was when I was probably 3 years old. Of course, I don't remember it, but he played some. I think it was a Nightwish record, um, and that sort of latched on to me. Later on, when I was probably 10 to 13, I had a video game, and a Nightwish song was in the soundtrack. And one day I was playing the game, and he came into the room, and I was like, "Oh, this is Nightwish." And he was like, "Oh, I love this music. Do you have the CD?" He was like, "Yes, of course I do." So the next car ride, when I was 14, he put on that record, and I was hooked, blown away.
Mm.
And then 1 month later, I picked up the guitar, and this is 2015, I think. So this is the birth, so to speak. Um, the birth of my passion for music. It's always been with me, but not actively until about 14 years old.
Yeah. I know for me, I had a very similar. It's wild to me how like there's like so many the same life parallels that a 45-year-old from Louisiana and a young man from Italy, like kind of same dynamic.
Yeah.
My dad was like into all kind of music, namely like classic rock, some heavy rock in like with Kiss and all that stuff and Sabbath and um just playing a video game one day. My dad's like got, the family stereo on and he's, blaring like, I don't know, it's probably, if I had to recall, it might have been like Kiss Alive. And I was like maybe
Oh yeah.
10 years old. And I was like, I don't, I know this is Kiss, but like, what song is that? And he was like, this is Black Diamond. I was like, oh shit. Like
Oh, Black Diamond, yeah.
they got like way better shit than just, rock and roll all night, and all that stuff. So, it's like, that fathers have a whole lot of influence, man, on their sons, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
especially when it comes to music.
Yeah, and family environment as a whole, like,
Yeah, yeah,
because if you grow up if you grow up surrounded by it, eventually some of it will stick with you, I think.
definitely. Yeah.
Um, and at the very beginning, my I'm mostly self-taught on guitar, but the basics were given to me by my father because since he plays the guitar, I was like, oh, I want to play the guitar now, and he was like, okay, I'll teach you. So I think we did that for 6 or 8 months, and it was extremely useful because he was teaching me all the scales and all the chords. Um, and so I have a little bit of a theory foundation as well. Um, and then from then on, I went on my own because yeah, this is I like to do things my way, like I said. So
Yeah. Going back to when you were learning guitar with your father, was he like really like, since you took an interest, was he like kind of pushing you to be the best player that you can be, like like some forced practice and stuff like that?
not forced practice, but we had one quote unquote lesson every week during the weekend. So he would teach me some chords or some scale or something, whatever. And he was like, practice this for the week and I'll test you next week. And I was doing that. So and since I had, like I said, I was very introverted. So I think I had just been starting out in high school and my structure was pretty rigid in high school, meaning that I had a lot of time to spend in school and had very little time at home.
Mm.
So I think I would leave home at 7 to be in school at 8, and I would come home at yeah, probably at 7 in the evening or 8 or 6.
That's a long time.
Um, yeah, that's a very, very long time because the morning we had lectures, and then in the afternoon we were supposed to study or do homework or something like that. Um, so when I came home, I wasn't really going to hang out with friends. I wasn't really into that. So I didn't care. So I would just lock myself into the room and play the guitar. I was so dedicated that since I didn't have calluses yet when I started to play the guitar, I used to have a plastic ruler, the ones that you have in, kids stuff for school.
Right.
And I was pushing it into my fingers like that so that calluses would form quicker and I could play for longer. I was that, obsessed.
That's smart. I never thought about that.
That's borderline masochistic, but it worked. So that's what we did. And when I came home, I was just lock myself into the room, play guitar until it was time to go to have dinner, then eat something, go back to play the guitar, and then go to bed. And then every day was like that. And I did that for years. Um, and then he would tell me at the end of the week if I needed to practice that thing more or if we were good to go, he gave me something more to do. I wouldn't say that it was strict with me, but there really wasn't a need to because I was so obsessed
Passion.
with it anyway that I wanted to play it. I wanted to learn more all the time. Because I was listening to the music that I liked and I wanted to be able to play that and I wanted to be able to play that as quickly as possible.
Right.
So I was like, if this is the way to do it, I'll do it. Um, so I think, yeah, like 2 years later, I was already gigging with a band. Um, and then I never really stopped. So
No. What was that first gig? What was that first band like?
it was older guys. I was 16 years old at the time, and they were probably close to like 38 or 42 or something like that, somewhere around there. And I remember the faces of the people in the crowd when I went up on stage, and all of them were, old guys. And then you had a shit kid like me just going up, a skinny shit kid with his guitar, just going on stage with that. And um, I joined that band after the original Apocalypse failed. So we had this. I think it's somewhat like you have Craigslist over there in the US.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's somewhat like Craigslist, but just for musicians. So it's like or music equipment. So you can sell music equipment or buy music equipment or look for band members. And I saw this post. I was browsing through the website and I saw this post by this guy. It was like, "Oh, we play heavy metal." The music style was kind of like traditional 80s heavy metal with some more extreme influences, notably in the vocals. Um, And so they were like, and we were looking for a guitar player. So I emailed them and we had a rehearsal and then we they liked my playing, so we went on from there. I stayed with the band for a few years. Um, then nothing really happened with that. It was kind of like seeing each other to play a bit and have fun. Uh, no major ambitions or nothing. And then they were much older. They had families and work and obligations, and eventually we just naturally
Right.
split up.
Yeah, that
Um,
happens a
Yeah,
lot, man.
we still hung out like once a year. We go back together, like let's go eat a burger or something like that. And yeah,
Definitely. So whenever you left the band, I mean, it's like you were able to devote more time to the things that you want to do musically, and where to go from there.
um, well, when I was in that band, I was still having Apocalypse as a side project. Um, so because that I could, since it was a one-man thing, I could do it, you know, completely on my own, and I would still be recording. I think my most productive year was probably 2019. Of the period between 2018 and 19 when I was recording 3 albums at the same time.
Mhm.
Plus a small demo that we released locally with the other band. So that was a really productive period. Um, Later on, I joined Feralia. They contacted me and they got to know about me through my project Apocalypse. Because when the first record came out, I made some homemade CDs and I brought them to a local. This is the good thing about my hometown. We have a local black metal record store, which is completely unheard of, especially in Italy. You would never think of something like that.
Yeah.
But we do have it. It's called Pagan Moon Organization. And that is sort of the meeting point for the scene somehow. Um, so I had brought the CDs to them, and some people had gotten to know about my project, and some of those people were the guys in Feralia, who were also older guys. So they emailed, no, I think that they contacted me on Facebook around 2020, and they said we need a new vocalist for the new album which I'm about to release. And I was like, that sounds good. At that point, I had already gotten into black metal. So I was like, yeah, sure, of course, I'll do it. And then from then on, I recorded the record, and then we rehearsed a couple times, and we found that we got along well. Eventually, I also moved on to the guitar, so I do guitar and vocals, so that we have two guitar players. Um, And as long as I was in Italy, I would say that Apocalypse and Feralia have been my absolutely my main projects.
Mhm.
So that has been the thing that I've been doing for the most time. And then I moved to Sweden, and now we have stuff is changing again. I'm still a part of the projects, but it's kind of hard to gig now with Feralia, of course, being just those 2,000 kilometers away, you know.
Yeah. I think I didn't ask this question, but I'm really curious of how like what where the jump was. I remember we talking about like your dad teaching you guitar
Yeah.
and like, and growing up on his influences, but like what was, I guess the band besides Bathory that you were like, just wanted to get totally engulfed in black metal. Like what was that like that I guess that bridge you crossed?
Black metal.
Black
Okay.
metal, yeah.
Um, I started with power metal, notably Nightwish, and arguably for at least 1 year, Nightwish was all that I would listen to.
Okay.
Because I'm kind of OCD in that. I find something I like, I just listen to that.
We're the same way. Because
So yeah. So I
when I
think I have
discovered a few bands, it was tunnel vision.
yeah, exactly. Um, so I've done that for a while, and I think I was also interested in reading about the music genre. So I would Google, because I'm a for better or for worse, I'm one of the younger generations. So we have internet, and
Yeah.
instead of fanzines, we have internet.
Right, right.
So I was Googling, heavy metal and stuff like that. And you go on Wikipedia and you find the links to the hyperlinks to subgenres and stuff like that.
Definitely.
Um, that's also how I came up with the band name Apocalypse, because it was like something saying like, oh, heavy metal usually talks about apocalyptic themes, and I was 14 years old. I was like, oh, apocalypse sounds cool. So
There you go.
uh, yeah. So and then somehow I stumbled upon black metal, and I started reading the the history from the Wikipedia page, and that really fascinated me. It had somewhat of it's a very, very twisted story, but it grabs you still because it has this menacing aura about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I know, I know some, guys, my age, if not older, who's like been a part of black metal, been exposed to it since, since it first began. I hear a lot of hard opinions and, about like how it's gotten so, I guess, monetized. It's just
yeah,
comes, it's its own industry at this point,
yeah.
and
And the funny thing is that despite me being so young, I agree with that sentiment. I think with it's not something that should be. It's not a radio chart genre. It's not
yeah.
made for that. So it's not
Yeah,
a tabloid genre. It shouldn't be.
it shouldn't be just like, just some commodity. It's
Yeah.
something. Yeah, I totally understand where you're getting from.
So that was my first contact into it. And then musically speaking, I think like I said before, I was watching a lot of Simon Smith videos. And one of the videos that he made was called Black Metal Guitar Techniques.
Yeah.
It was just showing, tremolo picking and stuff like that. And I was listening to some of the riffs, and I remember it was late at night, and I was an impressionable 16-year-old kid. So I was literally getting shivers down my spine just by listening to those black metal riffs. They sounded so evil. Especially when all that you've been listening to is Italian pop music, folk music, and Nightwish. That your horizon is very limited.
Right.
So anything that sounds a bit more dissonant, you immediately react to it.
Yeah.
Um, so that was my gateway into it. And then I would say that the album that got me into them, in 2017, I decided to start trying to get into the music genre. And the album that got me into it was De Mysteris Dom Satanas by Mayhem.
Yeah.
I think probably the first song that I heard, it's very cliche, but it was Freezing Moon. Um, and then I started watching rehearsal videos of Mayhem playing in the cabin and stuff like that, and then I got the album on CD, and so that I would say Mayhem was the big jump of that specific record. The funny thing is that I've never listened to anything else by Mayhem except that. I've listened to Death Cross, which I don't really like so much. And the later records, I think I might have given a spin to a couple of them a couple times, but they never really latched on to me. Um, I later moved on to Burzum, which is probably my favorite Norwegian act, um, from the time at least. And so I would say Mayhem Burzum and some Dark Throne. That was the jump for me.
Yeah.
And I got into Bathory later on. So I got into second wave black metal before I got into Bathory.
That's kind of like how I did myself. I think it was like 94, 90, anywhere from 94 to 96. Whenever I've told the story before, just in various American online chat rooms, talking to people, looking at what was coming in the fanzines and whatnot, as far as like all the images. Like the first
Yeah.
images that I saw of black metal was basically like Gorgoroth in and
Oh yeah.
their infamous concert where they had, like all the pigs on
The
spikes
concert
in
in Poland, yeah.
Holland,
Yeah.
right, where they got, some arrest involved.
Yeah.
So, it was just like, like all the allure and the imagery that black metal had put out. It was the most extreme in nature. And I was just like,
The,
just so interested in it. Just want to get more of that.
yeah, the imagery is very striking. I think a big part of black metal is the imagery, but not in a way that the image should be more important than the music, but in a way that it complements it.
Yeah.
So that the sort of the uniform and the way you present yourself and the way you present the aesthetic of the albums is very important to me. Again, like I mentioned before that I've been drawing my whole life. So I've always been a very aesthetically oriented person. Aesthetics are extremely important to me.
Yeah.
If something is looks wrong or looks ugly, I get uneasy. It shouldn't be that way in my
Yeah.
view.
Yeah. I'm with you on
So
that.
when yeah, so when things are and that in every aspect of life. So if you take black metal for instance, I think it needs to look the way it's supposed to look. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the aesthetics is very important to me. Um, for sure. I forgot to mention, you mentioned Gorgoroth. I forgot to mention the documentary. I think it was made by VBS or something like that, where they went to Gal's house.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember watching that as a kid. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That this is pure, you know, darkness. And this small place up in the mountains kind of reminded me of the mountains that we have back in Italy, going back to my roots. So that's sort of the nature in Italy is different, of course, but if you go high up on the mountains, it's kind of similar in the way that we have a lot of pine trees and a lot of snow and fog, um, which is the perfect black metal um, scenery. So
So
that also resonated with me, I would say. I met Gala last year in Norway eventually. I went to his
it's gallery.
art gallery in Bergen. Yeah.
Yeah, I did too. I'm good friends with Janneke Wies Hansen, who does all the tattoo work, and she actually did the Bursum album cover.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't
And
think I met her, but I know who you're talking about.
yeah,
Yeah.
so her tattoo studio is right next door to his gallery, and
Okay.
so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, cool. That's great. I never met her, I think. I
She's
might have run into her, but I can't, I don't remember.
a
There were
lovely
so
lady.
many people.
Fucking love her, love her.
Yeah.
And but yeah, actually, I shook hands with Gaul, and immediately thought what you brought up was him being in the cabin, like taking those that video team, the camera crew, through the snowy hills and all that, out to the mountains actually, and I was like, man, yeah, I don't think I'm ready for that just yet, but who knows?
But it was also it was also somewhat funny because some of the guys in the crew were like they went to Norway completely unprepared. You don't go
Oh
to Scandinavia without bringing boots.
no,
I'm the other way around in the way that I'm always wearing boots at any time. And that causes me trouble, especially in summer when it's bloody hot. But For me, it's either combat boots or cowboy boots all the time. So, but then I was seeing those people, and it wasn't that terrible of a hike, but they were like almost fainting. And I've been hiking my whole life, so I was kind of laughing watching at the footage.
Yeah, I was too. You know, because I was in the military and I was like, man, I was like, just drink some water, dude, and press on. Come on.
Yeah, it was like, oh, my life is in danger. But yeah, you're climbing a fucking hill. Come on,
Yeah,
even
get over yourself, goddamn it.
yeah, exactly. The highest mountain in Norway is probably not even 100 meters, so it's not in that area anyway.
Yeah. So, whenever you decided, like, you went to Sweden for a holiday, but what was it about Sweden that said, you know what, I can make this home. Okay, hey, I can make this, part of me for the permanent, foreseeable future.
It's it's again kind of it's a very good question. Um, it's also somewhat hard to put into words. Sometimes you go to a place. I think it was the only place I've traveled abroad quite much, only in Europe, within Europe, but I've traveled to I think at least 10 countries. So I've been places. Um, but when I came to Stockholm, I think it was the only time that I came to a place that was not home, but that somewhat felt natural to be in. So when I came here, it was like this could feel like home. Um, Bergen had it as well to a certain extent. I went to Bergen the first time in 2021 because I had a girl there, and you know how it is.
Yeah, yeah.
uh, and then I went again last year because of the Beyond the Gates festival. But when I came to Sweden in 2022, the first time was like this somehow this feels home, even though it's not home. So that got me thinking first. And then notably, you know, I went to the studio and we started working together with the guy. Um, and he has the record label. So that was a big push for me as well. And since I've always had this fascination with Scandinavia ever since I was younger, probably because I've always listened to a lot of Scandinavian bands as well. Um, I decided that the best way to experience a place is to try to live there for a while. So then I decided, okay, I'll just bite the bullet and do it. So then I moved to Sweden, um, and I'm very positively impressed. So for as far as I can tell, that right now I'm gonna stay in Sweden. One never knows what will happen in 10 years, but
Right.
that's my plan right now. And also from a music perspective, um, there are a lot of good things to be said about Italy. The metal music scene is probably not one of them. Or not the scene itself, but the way that it's perceived and promoted and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we have a fuck ton of good bands, but they never get the recognition they deserve.
Italy is one place that I've always had on my bucket list of places to travel to. But like you said, I've always had a passion for Scandinavian music. And I mean, our there was a foreign exchange student. I remember this like it was yesterday because I was in kindergarten whenever it happened.
Hmm.
And I had no idea that my little kindergarten had or the high school that I lived in. I mean, it was a very small. And one teacher would house these foreign exchange students, and she had Michael, who came from Oslo all the way to this tiny town in Louisiana. And
Hmm.
he had a bunch of before PowerPoint was a thing. There was just we had slide projector screen. And he had all these pictures.
Oh yeah, those
Of,
transparent things that you would,
yeah.
yeah,
So he had all these slides from his homeland, and I'm thinking like I need to go here. I just somehow it that place, the mountains, the fjords, all the countryside that he was showing, and the home life, it looked like the place to be. And it's just weird how that because I was 6 years old whenever that happened. And
yeah,
and then like you jump forward to 1994, where I'm introduced to Scandinavian and Swedish black metal and death metal, and I'm like, well, fuck. I mean, and that interest is still present to my life today, and it's like, like you said, man, like I went to Oslo the first time in 2022,
Hmm.
and I immediately felt like this could be home. And
Yeah.
I consider, like, every time I'm in Norway and surrounded by, friends that I've made, it feels like fucking home to me. So I totally understand.
Have you been to Scandinavia in winter?
Um, no, no.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
but
Do I
that
have the news for you?
no, but I went. I think the earliest I've went was like, there was one Inferno. It might have been my second or third one, where it was early. Easter was early, and I think it might have been like the middle of March. So they still
Mhm.
had that. They still had snow on the ground. It
Yeah.
was snowing like every day that I was there. Um, it was cold at night. That's for damn sure.
The biggest point is the darkness for a lot of people. That's why I say that it's important to live in a place for a while before it's easy to romanticize a place when you go there, stay a couple of weeks, and you're like, oh, this is, heaven. When
Right.
you live there longer, you start to realize that, uh, it, uh, in a certain way, the grass is not always greener on the other side, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
that's
you,
true.
you start to find out that there are things that, you need to get used to, and for some people it might be harder. I met other people that also come from Italy, and they are in Sweden. Um, and to them it's a lot tougher to get through winter, and people are a lot more distant than they are in Italy. It's not a problem for me because I'm very introverted, and it's okay if somebody doesn't talk to me on the bus. Actually, I don't want you to talk to me on the bus because I'm minding my own business.
Yeah,
But a lot of people need to have that social connection all the time,
right.
especially if you come from Southern Europe and stuff like that. Um, so temperament wise, and of course, like this is my window, and it's been like that since probably 4 o'clock today.
I
So
believe it.
yeah, and it's almost 8 o'clock now. And in I think in winter at 2:30 it's already pretty dark, and at 3 it's like this. So
I'm okay with that. I think it's the summers that bother me most. It's whenever the light is like constantly on.
yeah,
Went to Beyond the Gates last year, and the I think it wasn't, maybe it was like 1 a.m. where the sun, was finally down completely.
yeah, I remember that because I was at the same I was at Beyond the Gates last year as well.
Yeah, so whenever I know I specifically wanted to go see Hordem Rife play,
Hmm.
and that's and then like right after was Watain and Mayhem, and
Yeah.
it was fucking amazing.
I wanted to see, I think the biggest ones for me were, of course, one of them, the Bathory tribute, of course, me being the biggest Bathory fan on planet Earth, probably.
Yeah,
And then after that, I wanted to see Vreid because I'm a really big fan of Vindir, especially Arntor.
yeah,
Is it their second album, I believe? Um, so I really wanted to see them, and Enslaved were playing the whole Frost record. So I wanted to see that too, and I was like, another friend of mine, actually the guitarist in Feralia, was going, so I was like, okay, I'll go along. Um, but it was really, really cool. It was actually my first metal festival.
was it?
I'm not so much of a festival person, or I go to some concerts every once in a while, but I'm not that big into it. Um, the best way to experience music for me is listening to it on my own. Actually, probably the best way is to listen to it when I'm traveling, be it on
Yeah,
the bus or by car or on the metro or anything, and
yeah.
just put it on. It's just
That's where I'm at with it too, man. I mean, I I have a love-hate relationship with driving long distances, but like whenever I'm going someplace that it's either I'm driving 30 minutes to, an hour or even plus that,
Mhm.
I got the music just nonstop. And
I like driving. I remember for a brief time, I made Apocalypse into a live band. Um, Meaning I still do everything in the studio except drums. And even now in Sweden, I have a Swedish drummer taking care of the drums. He's a great, great guy. And he played the drums on the new record, which is coming out soon. But when I still was in Italy, I briefly made it into a live band. So having session musicians for the live shows, I would say. And we were rehearsing at this the drummer's place, which was probably half an hour out of town. Um, so uh, probably every Friday, I don't even remember, but one evening a week, I would take the car and I would drive to their place after dinner. So it was already late at night. And we would rehearse a couple hours and then we would go back. And of course, I had my stereo, so I was putting on ambient black metal music or stuff like that and driving in the darkness because it was up the hills somewhere.
yeah,
So you had to go through, the typical countryside roads with small houses and trees and that's a very good scenery to lose yourself into the music.
definitely.
Not so much because you don't want to crush your car, but
Right.
lose
Right.
yourself just enough to be still alert and driving.
So this is the point in the show where I like to ask everyone, what's their favorite six albums, man? Where you like to so, and it could be any genre, anything that you're listening to, something
Okay.
that's very, very treasured by you.
Okay. That's a tough one. Um, I'll try to go by the rule that I will only name one record per band. Otherwise, it would be too hard to do.
Okay.
But the first one would be probably Wishmaster by Nightwish. Um, and that's because that one is the one that got me into playing the guitar in the first place. And it still holds a special place in my heart. And, I wouldn't be here if I hadn't listened to that. So, um, Hammerheart is probably my favorite by Bathory.
Someone asked me just the other day if I like that, and I was like, "Are you serious?" Yes, of course.
What kind of a question is
I'm like,
that?
yeah. Like, is it you're like Mo? I know you like the Return and and under the sign of Black Market and all that stuff, but
Yeah,
do you like Hammerheart? I was like, of course.
yeah, of course. Um, it has a bit of everything, It has the aggression, it has the epic side of things. Um, and Song to Hold Up High, that ballad is probably is a complete jewel of a song. So
Agreed.
um, then I have to say Philosophem by Burzum, probably my favorite by him.
Really, really
Um,
he nailed the black metal sound coming out of Norway with that. I mean,
yeah,
it's an
and
it's undeniable record.
yeah, and the great thing is that he was making that record to rebel against black metal becoming a trend already.
Right.
So he kind of changed, and it became a classic of black metal, which is kind of ironic.
Yeah.
Um, uh, then I would probably say I'm on number three. Yeah, so I have three more.
Yep. Halfway there.
Yeah,
Starting off with a good start so far.
yeah. Lately, I've been I'll get off of metal for a little bit because I want to mention other genres as well. So lately, I've picked up Within the Realm of a Dying Sun by Dead Can Dance. Um, and that one is actually a very, very good record. It's kind of like a gothic ambient, I would put it. It's especially good for those nighttime traveling situations. Then I would probably say Antor by Vindir. And I have to say, of course, um, it's a record by Angelo Branduardi. It's an Italian artist, and it's called Camminando Camminando.
Oh yeah.
I have to mention that because that's the stuff that I grew up with. And he's somewhat picking up old medieval music from Europe and Italy and stuff like that, and making his own songs, stealing bits and pieces and rearranging them from old traditional music. And I absolutely adore the shit out of his music. And that particular record is a live record. I think it's a concert played in Berlin or something like that. Um, plus two studio recordings.
I've been getting into a lot of classical music as of late. Uh,
Oh shit, of course.
and I
Bach is my favorite, probably.
dude, like yes, yes. Bach, a lot of Mozart. Uh,
I didn't mention any classical
Tchaikovsky.
music. Damn me.
Oh yeah, man. No, no.
But
I was just like thinking. I was just thinking about that out loud. And I was like, man, um, it's just lately it's just like setting the mood for like what's gonna happen at night. I guess you're just like just go to sleep.
yeah,
Um, and I typically will like just when I'm in the car in the vehicle that's whenever I'm going places like that's where I'm like getting real aggressive with the music as far as like
yeah.
extreme black metal and everything. But man, you put together one solid fucking list. I'm very
No, thank
impressed.
you.
Yeah.
If I'm allowed a honorable mention, I would probably say
Absolutely you
something
can.
by
Please do.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Then let's put in there something by Yngwie Malmsteen. I would say
There
like
you go.
probably
I mean, you're in fucking Sweden. Why not?
yeah. I mean either trilogy or Odyssey. Probably trilogy.
Is he
Here's
one?
my favorite guitar player. I have the Yngwie Strat. Of course, I gotta
Well, there
mention
you go.
Yngwie
That
Malmsteen.
answers my question. I was like, is Ingve one of those guitar guys that you kind of go to and like, just watch? Because I know I do. I know I'll go to and just people will knock on Ingve for whatever reason.
Yeah, because they're jealous and they cannot sweep and play like him. So
Exactly. And and I know my limitations as a guitar player, and there's no ego about it. I mean, I can't sweep for shit, and I probably
took me a while to get there.
dude. I mean.
It's
But he's the guy, dude. Like, he's the guy who just kind of like just makes it all his own, of course. And, he keeps putting out material that's just like, dude, like, what the fuck is he doing? Like, how is he
yeah.
doing that? So,
Yeah. No, I've seen him live finally a couple of years ago. And he's still going strong,
yeah.
he still seems to have that burning passion and um so yeah, it's one of those people that I find very inspiring. Um and the music itself, of course, is something that I very much like. Probably having grown up with classical music, the strong classical influence in this stuff is something that resonates with me.
Mhm.
Um and you can kind of hear it in the way that I play the guitar. You still hear, especially in the way that I play solos. I have some of the neoclassical influence in there, and it comes from Yngwie mostly.
Well, man, Erymanthon, this is one of the better. I mean, they're all awesome, but thanks for coming on board with the on the episode, man. Looking
Thank
forward.
you for having me.
Yes, looking forward to Apocalypse's new release. That's going to be
Yep,
coming when? Was it when?
yep. It's on the 28th of November,
There you go. Remember,
a couple of weeks from now. And we didn't mention it, it's the 10 years anniversary.
10-year anniversary of an Apocalypse.
And yep, and it's gonna be old songs from the early days of the bands before I turned it into a one-man project. So it's actually a record that I wanted to make back then, but that I didn't find the members to make. And now, after 10 years, I made it on my own, so to speak.
There you go.
So it's a kind of a reflection of the sound that I had in mind back then, with the touch with the experience that I've accumulated over the years.
And where can people find your music?
Oh, we have a YouTube channel, of course. Um, we also have a Bandcamp page, which is probably I know it's big in the US,
Yeah,
Bandcamp
yeah.
specifically, and it's I would say it's probably the best way to support us because when you listen to that, you can find our music on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, but when you listen to that on Spotify, we get nothing.
Yeah.
If you decide to get the record on Bandcamp, we get something more.
Finally,
Um,
fucking said it.
yep, I know. I hate Spotify, but it's a necessary evil. You know,
Yeah.
it's has good and bad, so to speak. And then, like I said, all digital retailers. Mm, if you are in Stockholm and you want to buy records, you can go to Sound Pollution downtown. They have our records in stock.
I have never been to Stockholm, but I plan on going there in April. So just because the
Hit me up because I'm gonna
I'll
be
hit you
there.
up. I'll definitely hit you up. I'm gonna be taking a drive more than likely with Thomas Eriksson of Morik.
Uh-huh.
He said that that Stockholm is very drivable from where he's at
Yeah,
in the south of Norway. So we're probably gonna take a road trip out there, and I'll definitely look you up, man. And
do that.
we'll
We'll go
do.
have a beer or something like that. Or a cider. I don't really drink beer anymore.
I don't
Cider
even.
is.
I'll watch you drink the cider. I'll find something non-alcoholic because I'm a non-drinker on my side.
Oh, you are doing very that's a very good choice. I've been drinking I drink on special occasions, so to speak.
Hey man, I don't blame you.
Because
If I could do it
because
without impunity, I would totally do it. But you know, my drinking career led me to fucking jail, and I don't want to go there.
no, fair enough. I get that. No, I stopped before it went there.
There you go.
Now
Of
if there's a special occasion, I'll drink a bit. Red wine is my favorite. Of course it is. I'm
course, you're
Italian.
Italian.
Yeah. But yeah. But we'll do something.
Absolutely, man. Please stay in touch, man.
Yeah.
Air
Take
Manson,
care. Thank you for having me.
absolutely.